Hi, everyone. Dr. Steve Rasner here, broadcasting to you live today from Africa. I wasn't going to do this because I obviously don't carry my Marantz podcast portable studio around with me when I'm on airplanes. But I thought this was a pretty unique experience for some of my listeners who may actually watch the videos when I do the Lionhearted podcast. So if you are watching, you might see some antelope behind me or small critters called hyaks. But I'm going to entitle this one this week Lifetime Lessons for Your Practice, live from the Four Seasons in Africa. I flew in a couple days ago to Kenya and then flew from Kenya down to the Serengeti National Park, which is where I'm broadcasting to you from. And, you know, just like you, when you get out of the office, your thoughts become more clear, and I wanted to share them with you. And particularly, as I stated, lifetime lessons for your practice. And some of these messages come from a deep space within me. And the first thing I want to say to you is remembering where I'm from. So, right now, some of you are struggling as a D3 student or in a associateship that you're not really thrilled about. It's not where you want to be. You might even open to practice and are struggling. I want you to know that I did all of those. I did. I struggled in dental school, particularly in the beginning. I was in multiple associateships in my first few years. Dreadful, most of them. And there's certainly times in my private practice that I wasn't in a position to be at the Four Seasons Hotel in Africa, which is only one of two in this entire continent. And when you're getting a 90-minute massage outside in one of the most glorious places I've ever known, you have some time to think. And I want you to know this, and I hope you feel this. Those of you that are struggling, it doesn't mean that's going to be the end of your story. Think of all the other podcasts I've given where I've talked about never quitting and never even sitting around feeling sorry for yourself, because if that worked, I would tell you to do it. If that changed things, I would tell you to do it. But one of the thought processes I've had in my lifetime that has helped me is I always believed that nobody was going to come to rescue me. That the only way I would change my fortunes, particularly when they were bad, is to change them myself. And so sometimes we get ourselves in too much debt. I did that. All the things I've taught you about and spoke to you about each and every podcast is because I did things, I didn't make all the right decisions, but I met a lot of people along my way, other colleagues that made better decisions than I did. And, I've told you, one of the strongest common denominators I've met of the most young, successful dentists I know in my career was that they lived below their means in the early years. And I didn't do that. And it took me pretty much 3/4 of my career to come back. And that's not a lot of fun. It's not a lot of fun to go to work because you have to. And I don't care if you're doing $1 million or $2 million a year. Trust me on this. You have many colleagues, somebody you know in your circle of dental friends that in your mind you think they're killing it. Because maybe somehow you found out that their practice does 2.5 mil or some extraordinary number. Well, guess what? Number one, what's your net out of that? Right? So if your net is 20%, which is very common, versus a guy that has a 40% net and does $1 million a year, a lot less stress with that guy. So one of the lessons, and it's not sexy, and I understand why so many people don't follow it. It's not sexy to live in a house that's not the you could afford through the banks a nicer house, a nicer car. It's not fun to get the lesser house and the lesser car. But I will tell you that everybody that I met, I remember meeting guys in my 40s who had already accumulated a lot of money. I hadn't. I was in place to do that, I thought, but I had a long way to go. So, all these things we speak about each week translate not only to the things you also hear me talk about fulfillment as a dentist. You could listen to other podcasts and you could take a different road and have 5 or 6 practices, low quality, profitable to some degree. Your ultimate intention is to flip them to Wall Street. That is a way to make money. I didn't do that, so I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I do know dentists that have done that. I don't know, it's just not the legacy I wanted, and I don't think it's a legacy many of you want. I'm here to tell you that you can do both, that you can have a reputation in your community as a great dentist, as a person that is a vital part of your community and giving back, and still make an exceptional income. And I'm pretty sure that's what I could describe my own journey as. And that's the message I try to give you each and every week. So I begin like this because I don't want you to think that a Four Seasons hotel, which you can imagine is not inexpensive to come here. It's pretty extraordinary in terms of fees. Was pretty far from my imagination even 15 years ago, maybe even 12 years ago. I'm serious. And I'm 67. So you have time to change things around and still have this. This is a pretty nice life at this point. A 4-day work week. And look, I've had that for years. And I'm going to tell you one other thing that I put at the very end of this podcast. I said to you, and I know most of you know this, I didn't listen, is don't wait to the end to do these things. Just like you treatment plan your patients, just like you treatment plan, which I've asked you to do, your year in terms of academics, okay, in terms of the CE you're going to take. I actually literally used to treatment plan my year twice a year, in September and in January, for the courses I wanted to take. You should treatment plan your life. You should treatment plan vacations. This vacation was paid for 6 months ago. And just like my courses, once I commit, I pay for them. Because if I don't, it's too easy, I found in my career, to change my mind. So, just remember all this. I sure as heck wasn't in the top of my class. And I sure as heck struggled in the beginning of my career. And there was times in private practice where all the things I've shared with you, I worried about. Payroll. You know, learn from what I've given you. And it's easy. It's easy, particularly in the beginning, if you stick to it. It's harder. I'm not going to play around. It's harder to get out of it if you've created tremendous debt. But if you have the discipline in those first 10 years to save money, to build some assets, to only invest significantly in CE to change your skill set, then you are on the right track. And I know many of you are from listening to your emails. So let me talk to you for a second about the Four Seasons Hotel. I know more about the Four Seasons than the average person. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I began the speaking journey in 1998. And here's really what happened. It was just fortuitous for me. I fell into some early giant attendee lectures. In other words, there was thousands of people in my audience. And I was so raw and so, I think, authentic that the audience liked what I had to say. And I got invited to many of these things. And I really thought, because of the audience size, I'm talking about my first couple years, and because of their enthusiasm for the information I was sharing, that I was bigger than I really was. And it empowered me. It empowered me because I would share other businesses that I thought we should try to emulate. And one of them that fascinated me was the Four Seasons hotel chain, which I'm staying at. But I'm talking back in 1998. And I've been to many, many of them in the United States. And I went to one once. I'll tell you where I was. I was in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I went to the manager and I said, I'm just in awe about how you run your hotel. How do you do that? Is there a way for me to find that out? Could I interview you? This was the hotel manager. Remember, I thought I was at that point Tony Robbins, but nobody knew who I was. But it felt like everybody did know, but it wasn't true. It was in my head. Dentists knew who I was, some of them. And so the manager said she'll do one up better than that. She gave me this special card or something that if I was at a Four Seasons property and they were not engaged with a guest, they being a front desk person, a receptionist, the person when you first walk in, the guy outside that greets you by your car, the room service, the bartender, a manager, anybody I wanted to. And I could ask them whenever I wanted to. And I did. And I found out fascinating things that, by the way, you can read in books too. The Magic, I don't know what the name of the books are, but if you Google Four Seasons hotels, there's books on how they do what they do. There's even courses, very expensive. And that's how this Four Seasons thing became a thing for me. And I'm sure there's other hotel chains. I've tried almost all of them, but I've never found one as good. I think they're the gold standard of hospitality. So why am I talking about all this? What's this mean? Well, okay, we're a dental practice and we can't quite do what the Four Seasons does. But remember, I've been running a fee-for-service practice in the center of southern New Jersey for probably 20 of my 42 years. That is really hard to do. It's really hard to do because nobody else does it. And by the way, it got easier to do. And that's a really deep subject, and we've talked about it at other times. Converting from what do you want to call it, an insurance driven or an insurance mixed and plus fee for service to a total fee for service practice. And, how do you do that? How do you sustain that? And if you follow a lot of the principles that they use at this hotel, I'll just share some of the things I've seen since I've been here for the last few days. First of all, the place is, you hear me say all the time, palpably different. It's palpably different the minute you get there. Is that true of your dental practice? It's true of mine. It's true not because I have waterfalls cascading in my reception room. The Four Seasons is famous for blending into the community that they're in. So here in Africa, the outside of the building is thatched huts, but the inside has Four Seasons in an African culture stamped all over it. And that's how they are, whatever country they're in. They assimilate the culture. And so the second you see it coming, you kind of know what you're going to run into. The guy comes out. So when you drove up here, of course, there's multiple people. So they never, ever are short on staff. Now look, I know we can't stay in the Four Seasons every time we go away. I get it. But I have to tell you, once you do, when you get to that hotel where there's nobody out front and you have to go inside and ask, do you have anybody around that could possibly help me with my stuff? It gets, you feel it. It's very, very different. And then here, of course, not only do they have that, but they have this real life African, I don't know what his title would be, but he's dressed completely in the attire that you would see in National Geographic. And every one of them has just an unstoppable smile on their face and in their eyes. I have to ask you, what are people seeing when they walk into your office? In my office, the feeling is very much spa-like or zen. It's not over the top, but the lighting was done that way. And look, I know some of you are at a place where that's not even an issue to you yet, but this is a big podcast, and a lot of you are at that point where you're thinking about when you're going to open your dream practice. So what's it going to look like? That has to cross your mind. And I would highly encourage you to consider a Zen-like feeling. How could that be bad? A spa-like feeling. So the lighting, the decor, I'd highly, highly recommend that be the direction you go in. That's clean, spotless. This place is surrounded, I wouldn't call it a jungle, but it's dry, it's easy to get dirty, and it's spotless. Is your practice spotless? Is your bathroom in your practice spotless? I know this sounds like, oh, big deal. Remember something. I always start with the assumption that if you're interested in my podcast, if you're interested in the Lionhearted type of dental life, that you're devoted to clinical excellence, to being the best, part of the expression, the cliche, version of yourself that you could be. And you get that by continual lifetime commitment to CE. If you don't have that, if your crowns fall out constantly, if you constantly are riddled with complaints from the patients that entrusted your care, then no, all this won't matter. Everything I'm about to say won't matter. But if you have both, if you put the time in, now you have to train your people to know that it's an issue. To walk into a business where their smiles are radiant, I mean, it's unbelievable. And they remember your names. The first time they hear your name, they remember your name. And it's a very bonding type of experience in any business when people don't struggle to remember who you are. And when I say that, I'm talking about your entire team. They're always polite. In my career, I've told you before that I have like 18 employees. Well, 18 employees is a lot of people to monitor and control. And to be sure that you always hire very polite people who don't have bad days. I'm trying to keep it real right now. I don't really know how they do that here, but I know this. Your staff will only know what's important to you if you constantly remind them, this is what counts around here. I don't care if it sounds corny to you. I need positive, smiling, happy people because 2 reasons. We have to work together each week, 35 hours a week, whatever it is. And that's a better way to do that. And 2, it's real good for business. Look, in my career, I can remember times when I lost it. Maybe I didn't shout, but it was clear to somebody that I wasn't happy. That is really bad for business. And it's equally bad for business if it's a staff member doing it to another staff member. I'm trying to give you the most basic things that are always here at a Four Seasons type of hotel. but are often absent in another business, including a dental practice. So the people that you come across, and I don't care who it is in this hotel, and I don't care who it is in your practice, are they positive energy people? It's hard to embody that all the time. I'm sorry, I don't care if it's hard. The reward for it is worth it. So, do they understand the value of eye contact? Do they understand the value of smile, of being polite, of using the names of the patients that come into your practice? Another thing that's undeniable here is they're competent, prepared, and cross-trained. So no matter who you ask for something here, it is never, I'll get back to you. They know how to direct you immediately, as if they were trained in that, which is they probably were. Something as small as, I was at breakfast this morning, and in my room is these very special pods for coffee, for espresso, and they only had decaf in my room, and I wanted caffeine. So I'm at the restaurant, I'm asking a waitress, hey, I described what I just said to you. Do you know where I could get them from? I know where you can get them from. Remember, they speak Swahili here, and they also speak beautiful English. In her broken English, however, she said, I know where to get them. And in not half an hour, 5 minutes, there was the pods to take back to my room. They're cross-trained. Early in my career, one of the things I insisted upon when I didn't have a big staff is that the staff was cross-trained, which meant, so I had 4 people. So I would teach my front desk person how to come back and basic chair side assist if that's what I needed. Maybe I needed that 5 times a year. I don't know. It wasn't every day. It wasn't every week. We cross-trained in how to look up a bill and what's the status of insurance when we were taking insurance. That's what I mean by cross-trained. Having somebody from the back, for example, from the clinic, walk somebody up to the front, check them out in your computer, take a payment, whatever the person normally would do who may be out that day. You understand? That's what cross-trained means. It's the most inexpensive way and efficient way to hire more staff because you're really not hiring more staff. And when they learn more tasks, you should reward them financially. The third thing I notice is everybody works hard here. There are nobody shuffling their feet, getting from point A to point B. Okay, these people are moving, right? If you ask them something, it seems like it's an important thing for them to get done. Physically, whatever it is. So, from the smiles, to the competency of their jobs, to working hard. I'll tell you a 4th thing that I think is incredible, is that it's very easy to tell, and this is a hard one in our practices, that they like each other. You can see it. There's no exaggerating this point. When they don't know you're looking at them, you can see them high-fiving each other, or they're friends. And that's look, I know some of you are saying right now, wow, he's in a Four Seasons hotel, and he's caught up in the moment, and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not. I'm not caught up in the moment. I don't know how many times I've been to one of these hotels, but it is many, many, many. And I'm used to it. It's always a consistent product that is incredibly different than anywhere else I've ever gone, even including the Ritz-Carlton. And I will say to you, you can't have exactly that in your practice, but you can come damn close. You can come close to something that people can feel. You can't have exactly a Four Seasons product in your practice, but you can come close with your training, with what's important to you that should be important to them. And it's constantly requires you reminding what you want to stand for, because you heard me say it earlier. I said it's worth it, but the outcome of that is people in your community, I don't care where you're at, are going to want that. I don't get it every day, but I get people enough that say to me many times a week, you guys, I just didn't know this kind of place existed. Everybody is on point. And I don't hear that enough, but I hear it a lot. And once you're there, I don't have to even guess. I know that you are on the right path for a Lionhearted type of success. It's not just your clinical excellence, guys. It's not. I'm sure there's many gifted clinicians around the United States and the world that struggle, that maybe can't communicate what I'm trying to communicate to you right now. Maybe they can't even communicate that because not everybody's a leader. So maybe if I was in that position, I don't know exactly what I would do. Maybe I would hire a manager that embodied the kind of things I'm telling you that could express this is what Dr. Such and Such is looking for. I do know one thing. If you have that person on your team, I used to call them a vampire, who sucks the energy out of every new idea, who would think this kind of stuff is stupid. That's not what, we're not a hotel, we're a dental practice. No, you can be a hotel and a dental practice in terms of philosophy. Why couldn't you be that? I like to tell you everything from, do you care enough about it being Walt Disney clean? There's a lot of ways to achieve that. For about 5 years, I hired a mildly mentally handicapped girl that her parents came to me. She came to me. They were thrilled. And she just walked around all day and cleaned glass and straightened up things. Eventually they moved, and I haven't ever replaced her. But there's ways, high school students, there's ways to get to where you want to be if you care about it. I've used this a million times. And the saying is, forgive me, I have a cold also this week. I tested for COVID. It's not COVID. The saying is, leap and the net will appear. Look, guys, this is the fun part of developing your practice, right? Taking the courses, incorporating rubber dam dentistry, learning all the things that you have to learn to be a complete, quote unquote, super GP is certainly challenging. I wouldn't call it fun. This is fun. It's fun to create magic in terms of the culture of your practice. And that's really what I'm talking about this week. So I'm going to repeat them. The lessons for your team that I've learned from the Four Seasons are the instant gratification you get just from the people's body language, whether it be a smile, looking you directly in the eye, using your name. The second I got out of the car, welcome, Steve. Welcome to the Four Seasons. Welcome, Mary, to the Four Seasons. They're always smiling. They're incredibly polite. They're competent and prepared. If they were just friendly and bimbos on whatever you tried to get done, no. They work hard. They're not loafing. You can tell they really like each other. One more couple things. The physical plant, as I said earlier, if I could give you one suggestion, if you're at that point in your careers, I would think Zen. I don't know how you could go wrong. I mean it. In my waiting room, reception room, and in my office, I know many of you, and maybe it's because I haven't done it, I don't know about it, have these gigantic aesthetic dental pictures. And I'm sure that's a great way to go. I want people, remember, my practice is a sedation practice, pretty much. And I've encouraged you to do the same. I want people to feel that Zen peacefulness through and through. The last thing I want to tell you is dentistry is physically demanding. I want you to think right now, if you're right-handed, of doing an upper left quadrant of dentistry or a lower left. 42 years into this, I still have to sometimes get up half crouched out of my chair to really get the view I want to finish a preparation or whatever it is I'm doing. That's just not good on your back over 40 years. And I don't know anybody, and we never talked about this before, in my profession who has over 20 years in it that doesn't have some aches and pains in their body, in their back, in their arms. Give your body therapy and don't wait for a vacation. I mean it. Whether it's body work, a massage, something, you have to take care of your body or you're going to pay for it down the road. And I used to do much better at that than I have in recent years. But coming here and yesterday, having a massage probably for the first time in 6 months, reminded me of how important that is. Take care of your body. We chose a really physically demanding profession. And lastly, life is short. Plan for this. Whatever your Africa is, maybe it's skiing in challenging mountains in Colorado, Vail, whatever. Maybe it's a trip to the Amazon. I don't know. It doesn't have to be this extravagant. But I heard all this. So have you. I've heard people say to me in my life, life's short. Don't blink. There's no way to slow it down. The only thing you can do is live your best life. But don't wait for that to happen. Plan it early. And you'll be pretty grateful for this particular thought in this podcast. Everybody, thanks for joining me live from the Four Seasons in Africa. I'll see you next week back in the United States.